going to have to apologize two ways for two things. One, please subscribe to the second channel if you can and support that in any way you can. But double shilling, I have to forewarn people of the larger conflict between Tony Ortega and Aaron Smith Levin. Very briefly, Tony is a Mike Rinder ally, and to put it mildly, Aaron and Mike don't get along nowadays. But just people have to be aware of this larger conflict between these two people. But I'm going to try to tap into the genuine information, which is pretty shocking and is really a double case. And whether you like Tony Ortega or not, he has kept the story alive, and it is very, very shocking. So let us get right to it. I will get to, quote, the normal thing with Ron Miscavige, but there is a massive, I do mean massive punch, which involves Rinder, and really that's sort of been forgotten, which I don't know why. And I'm honestly skeptical. I'm not clear why that's not been emphasized. So essentially what happened is Ron Miscavige, the father, yes, of David, after a long time left disillusioned. And afterwards, David, when Ron left the church, got very, very nervous. And of course, as usual, started stalking former allies. So he sent a couple of detectives, one of them called Dwayne Powell and his son, to Wisconsin to spy on Ron. But it got exceedingly more and more strange and more grotesque when the police found guns on them, and they stated as a fact, no, we're just there. They were there to monitor Ron for David and reporting regularly to him, but they were just doing surveillance even though they had weapons, and they even have a silencer, which is technically illegal. Wait, why do you have guns on you? And also, they're not licensed in Wisconsin. So these are unlicensed private eyes working in a state they shouldn't be working in. So the cover story is they were just there to follow him and report back. Now, good or bad, Scientology can hire private investigators, whether I like it or you like it. However, it gets more and more murky and weird with Rinder. Apparently, a woman called Alana was hired in Florida. That's where Rinder was with. Again, that wasn't his wife at the time, but Christy, as well as Amy and Matt Pesh. And apparently, Alana was stalking them. And one of the people she worked with? Dwayne Powell. That's right. So Rinder actually has a literal real link to the Ron Miscavige spy case. And in that case, again, it's YouTube, I can only say alleged. We can allege that perhaps David, yes, was monitoring Ron, but may have authorized them to do something far more deadly. Again, this is an allegation. I cannot state this for a fact, but it is what the evidence can give us some credence to say. And what's interesting is Rinder doesn't talk about this too much. Tony Ortega has reported this a few times. Again, he hasn't kept completely silent. He has spoken about it. But usually when Rinder talks about his experience of being stalked and harassed, doesn't really get into this. Now, to be fair, I think Alana, for the official record, spoke out officially last year. So it could be Rinder is just being modest. He's protecting a source. He's being sensitive to her experience and said, okay, I don't want to speak unless you want to be on the record. But now she is on the record. And during this time period, Rinder, to put it mildly, has had a PR war with a lot of people in the anti-Scientology community. So you'd think he'd want to pull this card to protect himself because it's like, wow. Again, to be fair, he was not being stalked with detectives with guns. However, he does have a link to the Ron Miscavige case, and it's the same spy. Dwayne Powell is working on his case and the Ron Miscavige case. So it is pretty shocking. And let me close off, I think, with the Big Bang pulling it all together because, again, this is Tony Ortega. The reporting he's done here is very fine, but it is still iffy, not in terms of his ethics, but what to make of it. Essentially what happened in the 1980s, Flo Barnett also left Scientology, and Flo is Shelley's mother. And apparently David may have ordered a very similar operation, and it involved Rathbun and perhaps Rinder. Again, we don't know, but it was Project L. And again, it's very similar that people were sent to monitor Flo, and then mysteriously Flo committed suicide by shooting herself with a shotgun several times. So we are seeing a very bizarre pattern with Miscavige. If you leave the church, you have some kind of family connection. He sends people to stalk you, and sometimes these people mysteriously end up dead. And the people involved in these conspiracies happen to be people working in OSA. A lot of lines that can be drawn together. Again, it's YouTube. These are allegations. I'll have to do more digging, but it does set up an alarming pattern. And just as a final note to be consistent with criticizing everyone, Ron is a controversial figure. A lot of people do admire that he spoke out, but they got really angry that he didn't denounce David enough. He denounced David essentially for A to Y crimes, but he didn't denounce him for the Z crimes, and a lot of people were just got really hot and bothered. He wasn't denouncing David on every single issue, which I'm like, okay. I mean, he was very severely critical if you look at his interviews, so I don't see the controversy, but apparently he wasn't being critical enough. There you go. So he is still a controversial figure because people think he should have gone further, revealed more secrets, been even more vicious towards David. I mean, David to me is an evil dictator, but I also think we want to be careful and keep it factual. So maybe just Ron is like, well, the facts here are weak. He spoke to his lawyer and is like, well, I really can't allege that because that could get me in trouble. It is possible. So there we are. So again, I have no issue with Aaron questioning Tony Ortega's integrity, but I do suspect that Tony did have a few good, juicy stories, and Aaron just does not want to give him credit. And that's fine, but that's a personality issue. I'm concerned with the information. And this information seems rock solid, so please Google it yourself because the algorithm is really hiding this, which I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. Because again, yes, Ron Miscavige, really bad. But the Rinder link with Alana, that's not really spoken of too much. And again, I just don't know why. I honestly don't know why. So please do your own searching. It's a very, very interesting case, and the way it ties in with Lo Barnett and her very mysterious death. Have a good day.